Loud noises. Are we ready?
Loud noises.
All right, Shane, you sound good, baby. So do you guys generally look at whoever you're talking to, or just in general look
Basically,
around?
Yeah, you can look around.
do whatever you want.
You can.
Don't
Look at the sky, dude, if you
That-
want to.
yeah,
Talk
that-
to
don't feel
God.
like
You don't
have
need to look at that. Just look.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
look
you got it.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hot Laps, brought to you by Heatshield Products. Race testing.
All right, welcome back to Hot Laps. You're listening to, this is lap number 5. I can't believe it, but that's where we're at.
Yep.
And I think we should introduce ourselves because I think we've been spotty with that. So I'm Chris.
You're sales manager at
I'm the
Heatshield
sales
Products.
manager at Heatshield Products.
I am Steve. I am the head peon at Heatshield Products.
I'm Shane. I'm the assistant to the head peon.
There you go. And actually, it's kind of cool. So today we actually have a special guest, Matt Couper. He's the owner of Autoworks Parts in Santee, California, which is basically just down the freeway. And we want to just give you a big thanks for coming up and being our number one
Wow.
official,
yeah.
That's right.
very first guest.
The trailblazer.
Hot Laps. Special guest is on now.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It's great to be here, and the opportunity is amazing. So
Yeah.
the first, I feel very, very honored.
That's got some awesome insight on car building, so that'll
Yeah,
be
for
great
sure.
to have him here.
And just a quick insight to what you do. I kind of pulled this off of your website, but
So if he's wrong, correct him.
yeah,
right.
exactly.
And then yell at Richard when you get back. Hey, you screwed
You
that
got
up.
to
Yeah.
fix that.
So Autoworks Parts specializes in classic Mustangs and strive to bring their customer the latest and best for resto, mod, and classic restorations. And you're currently working on Heatshield Products
The redemption.
Mustang,
Right, yeah, the
the
redemption stand.
redemption. So did I hit that on the head?
You pretty much did, yeah. I
Okay.
think we want to really just add that, the parts that we bring you, there's a lot of proprietary parts that we build that you can't get anywhere else. So that makes us just a little special.
Sweet.
Super bright LED interior kit lights.
Right.
Anybody that's had an early model Mustang, that's what you need on your car.
Well, I've been down there. It's a great shop, and there's a
For example, that's just one of the many.
ton
I
of
should say.
ton of killer things.
Yeah.
down
Right,
there.
yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
All right, so traditionally we kick this thing off now with a question, so you get to be involved with that, which is
Oh,
cool.
man.
I want to get into the history of you and what you do and
Okay.
everything, but let's just go real quickly. All right, number one question of the podcast, number 5. Worst experience with a car you owned?
Oh, man.
Oh,
That would almost be, where would I start? But one very, very embarrassing thing does come to mind. Not necessarily the worst, but really embarrassing. I remember as a young guy, teenager, being down the beach, and I'm all that, right? And I've got a Datsun. I can't remember exactly what model it was. No, that's right. That was a Toyota. Okay, it was a 2-door coupe, and I put a Datsun engine in it back then. It had twin Webers, headers and all that sort of good stuff. Nice 5-speed transmission. Put big wheels under this car, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a donut right here.
I see where this is going.
Right, so that was actually a pretty good idea because there was a lot of nice like sand on the road, right? And it was like perfect. I'm going to do this awesome. So anyway, I started on this donut. And, I'm a really good driver, right? Because I'm, 16? So, of course, I'm good, right? And it happens to get some traction because it got off the sand onto the asphalt, and it didn't really have enough, it wasn't probably spinning the wheels enough right then. So it actually ended up pushing, and the thing went straight ahead, and it smashed into, like, a big V kind of curb, a nice high curb. And I remember going, oh, my God, what happened? So anyway, I back up off this thing, take a look, and, I got oil coming out of the engine.
Oh, no.
So anyway, I can tell you that engine ran for quite a long time with no oil in it.
Wow.
So I managed to make it all the way home because, it was just terrible. What am I going to do? Sit there and go, oh, yeah.
Get the
So-
wrecker out to get the car out of there?
Yeah, things don't happen like that in New Zealand. You're there and you just kind of got to wing it. The boys will give you a hard time if they see you. So I grew up in a town of like 30,000 people. and everyone pretty much knew everyone if you're young, right? So you're not going to live that stuff down. So I limped home, took my pride, threw it in the trunk, and and tried to fix the car before that night.
That's awesome.
So I'm not sure that was the worst, but that always stuck to me.
That's
as
like a great
very embarrassing.
Yeah. Well,
Who wants to go next? Steve, you want to go next?
I mean, there's a lot.
Well,
It's hard to narrow it down.
Don't incriminate yourself, okay?
Well, there's a lot. Worst experience probably was for some reason a lot of the worst ones were in a Mustang. This one was one of the banana Mustangs, a 71 Mustang. This is when I was coming, and nothing like traumatic I had spun out, been in people's yards, knocked over trash cans, stupid stuff like that all the time. But the worst, like the most, like, oh God, I'm so over this day was I was working for the football team at SC. It was Thanksgiving, so we had practice in the morning. I was going to drive home, have dinner with the family, and the car broke down. And didn't just break down, but like I was coming down, I think it was on the 110. It took an hour to get to the 110. So Thanksgiving Day traffic in Los Angeles is god awful. Pull over on the side of the road, and the car starts cutting out, and I got to basically have to get out on the freeway.
I want to know why this story has to be about a Mustang.
Well, just because that's what I've had one or two. This is the banana one. And long and short of it is the car had something like the fuel tank had rust in it. Came through, it was clogging the fuel filter. Didn't get it diagnosed until like a week or two later. But it normally an hour and a half trip home for me took, I think it was 8 hours. And I ruined everybody's Thanksgiving that year because they had to come up, grab me. There's traffic both. It was just brutal.
Right.
That was painful.
Man, Shane, how about you?
Yeah, there's a few I won't bring up because I would incriminate myself. But I think the worst experience in a car I had was when I smashed into the back of a landscaper, and like his little Toyota truck with a flatbed, and the flatbed had a grate in the back, and it just crunched the
What car?
crap out of that car, the Highlander. And on top of all that, I had 4 kids in the car for the after school carpool.
That's recent history.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so your 2 kids and someone else's kids?
Yeah, in the carpool kids. No, but it was like the guy pulled out. He pulled out right, and I figure he went, and so I look, and I usually always yell at everyone that makes this mistake, but I guess I didn't look, and I had laid into the gas, and I turned that way, and there he was, still stopped. He must have had a second, he thought about going, I guess. It was my fault, but I can partially blame him.
Right.
What about you, Schwartz? You got a plenty too.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to do a series of events. So
Baja bug rollover?
The Baja bug was involved. So I had a Baja bug. I blew the 3rd cylinder on it, which is pretty common because it's air-cooled, oil-cooled. And I was driving my stepmom's 1978 Datsun 510 station wagon.
Did that have a push button?
No.
Oh, damn.
It was a floor automatic. But
okay.
So I was coming, blew up my Baja bug, driving that car. I came up when I was dating your sister, and she's like, "Oh, you need to come and see my horse." So I'm like, "Cool." We went and did it. I went up and saw the horse, and I didn't realize that I was like extremely allergic
to horses.
This horse. Wow. So I go back to the house, and my eyes are swollen shut. She has to drive me back down to my house in San Diego. My mom gives me a Benadryl pill like the size of a quarter, and she's not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it. We hung out for a little bit longer. I drove home and rolled my car on the 52 on right next to Genesee, which is a...
Did you roll the Baja bug?
No, I rolled the 510.
The 510, okay, all right.
So...
Thank God you didn't hurt the Baja bug.
Exactly.
I'd be more worried about the 510, actually.
Yeah. So the highway patrolman shows up and, asks, what happened. I fell asleep is what happened, but I told him that a deer ran out in front of me, and I swear.
A deer.
It was like an oh deer.
Happens every day there.
So I call my stepmom and say, "Hey, I was in an accident in your car, but I'm pretty sure it was okay because it rolled into some trees." I get a phone call from my dad the next morning. He's like, "You need to get your butt down here and I went down to the tow yard, and the entire top of that 510 was flattened.
Wow.
I didn't realize it, but it was, and
It was upside down when you were assessing the damage.
yeah, and I think at that point that was my fourth car at the age of like 17.
You
So
were
my
that
dad
guy,
finally
huh?
said, "Screw it, we're gonna get you a Ranger truck," and so I got that. I was pretty stoked on it, but yeah, that was probably the worst. That all happened within 2 weeks, so it was a kind of a nightmare. But
Yeah, that's rough.
yeah,
It is. It is. Well, one more comes to mind
go ahead.
if you know. So the boys used to have a Datsun 180B. I think isn't it like a 710 or something here?
Could be.
Was it like a
76?
like a Maxima like vehicle?
It was like a rounded kind of Datsun, but it was 4 doors. So 4 doors were real common in New Zealand. We
Yeah.
didn't usually
In
have
Australia,
anything
dude, they
but
love the
4
door
doors.
factories
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah. So we got this, and I put a General Motors, a Holden engine, a 253 V8 in this car.
Oh,
So
that's a rocket, dude.
yeah, so my uncle said that I couldn't do it, couldn't be done, so that was the very good excuse to make it happen.
Sure.
So my friend Paul and I, we put this in, but anyway, that was the town's, the car that we would go around the town and hoon around in and, you know, all that sort of thing. So a lot of fun, but I do remember one time when I changed it from a manual transmission to an automatic. So we're out driving and the road's slightly wet, and I remember getting up to 95 mile an hour in this car, which wasn't fast for this car, but it was for the conditions that we're doing. We're on a brand new paved road, and I remember saying to myself, or thinking to myself, there wasn't any other thing influencing my mind at that point, by the way, guys. But I do remember going, hey, I'm doing 95 mile an hour, I should change gear. But it was a big problem because it was an automatic. And the boys didn't put any stops on that automatic shifting.
Oh,
no.
no.
So
Kaboom.
this is old teenage stuff. So no, it was way worse than that. So
Was it a Power Glide? What was in it?
it was a well, I don't even know what the Holdens had back then. It was like a 3-speed.
Okay,
like
so
a turbo,
Power Glide's like a
yeah,
2-speed. So
well,
okay.
yeah, it was a turbo 350. I think
Okay.
is what they used.
Okay.
Or even a 400. So I slammed this thing into park at 95 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
That wasn't the first car I put into park though, but it was the first one at 95 mile an hour. And that car, we were going right, obviously straight. It went 180 instantly
Oh,
on
I
the wet
believe
road,
Oh.
and we're going backwards at 95 mile an hour.
Oh,
And,
no.
And my partner in crime, Paul, he's sitting there beside me, and I look over at him, and he's got this really weird look on his face. I remember today. I can see his face. Right,
He's
and
praying.
And no, he wasn't at all. He says in a very, very high pitched voice, he goes, "I think we're gonna die." So I won't tell you where the car actually ended up, but we ended up going up a curb through a brand new wrought iron gate, and there was quite a few things that kind of run into the car while we were making an exit of that particular place, and it ripped off the front suspension, did all sorts of stuff.
Oh, my God. I just, incinerated
It
your car.
just kind of spun around, and I mean,
Wow.
it was that was pretty bad. And we were racing solo speedway bikes at the time. So on the back of the car, we had the big, like the motorcycle rack that you would see, but it was on the back of this Datsun, right?
Oh.
So that saved us a lot. The front was totally smashed and everything, but we ended up cutting that car in half and getting 2 cars and making it a nice V8 Datsun yet again. It rode another day.
Wow.
Wow, that's killer.
Man, that would make me change my shorts. I'll tell you that.
Like I said, there was no influencing factors in that story.
Wow.
Like there was, we were totally
Sober.
everything.
Yeah.
So,
Just adrenaline was the only factor there because you were
Yeah.
ready to grab another gear,
Oh,
except
man.
it went.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think pretty much the morning brought the real light to that car. It was absolutely toast.
Man.
It,
I
when we
used
got
my
away with it,
team's-
we did not die.
Yeah, you used your tape.
I use my team story.
Well, we'll ask it again. All right. So enough of that.
My girls might listen to this someday, so I got to be careful.
Yeah, and I definitely didn't do any of that. For my kids that are listening,
Yeah,
none of
it
that
didn't
actually
happen.
really
Yeah.
happened. We just
Yeah.
made up that
Yeah.
story, right?
I made up mine.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
So Couper, we get a lot of questions from customers, and before we get into the history, because I really want to dig into it, what you've done and all of the stuff that you've been involved with, but we get lots of questions, and a lot of them that come up that are repeats, and I just want to try to get your quick interpretation of that is, the first question is, what's your feeling? Like, what's the best way to reduce heat in your vehicle?
Yeah, I would say turn the heater off if it's on. That would be number one. Roll down the window, right?
Yeah.
No, I really think that if you can keep the heat out of the car in the very first place, put in any sort of heat shielding that you can in the areas where it's most hot, i.e. wrap headers and things like that, just to keep the heat from making its way into the passenger's compartment first. I mean, there's lots of ways that you could do that, and Heatshield product has many of different products that you can use throughout the car. So there's no real super quick answer for that. But it stopped that heat from radiating and basically stopped that sheet metal from heating up.
Stop it at the source. That's
Yeah,
the best
that's
way.
it.
So on some of your builds, and again, you don't need to get elaborate, but obviously you use our stuff. That's why you're here. But is there one trick that you like in particular?
Can I tell you my favorite trick that I've seen that he's
Go
done?
ahead. Yeah.
Like the sticky shield, like that's the heat shield you put into the car. I love how he made these little panels, especially like on that turbo car,
Yeah.
twin turbo 66 coupe.
Right.
He made these little panels that he can take on and off, because the whole point of that car, another reason why instead of like a Bronco that was built, we're going to build this car, shake it down, and then make it look pretty, unlike a certain heat shield Bronco that was never done correctly. So he has this turbo car. So one of the things he did is, because he knew he was going to take it all apart and paint it, so he built these super slick little shields, and then he stuck the sticky shield to it, and it looks awesome. It looks like if Ford were to go back and make a resto mod Mustang, that's what they would do. Of course, they probably wouldn't put a twin turbo in it. If they did, it'd be a V6, and who wants that?
The beauty of that stuff, though, is you can make some air gaps in between the heat source and the floor, or whatever panel that you're doing, or the firewall. So it's a great use of a very handy product.
So now you can go into your thing, but that was my favorite thing I've seen.
Well,
of
I
him.
just
Yeah,
want to
that's
also let the listeners and viewers know that that's on YouTube, right? I mean, we have that up on our
I think
site
that one, that's
Yeah.
one of the
where
things we go to his shop.
We invade your shop,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think we showed the car when it was in its raw form. So right now the car's all pulled apart, getting paint and doing the pretty powder coat and all that sort of thing.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to add? I mean, what's your favorite? What's your go-to when you're doing that?
Yeah, we like the sticky shield. It's really a handy product for
Yeah, I
sure.
think that stuff's awesome.
All right. So we'll do the history if you're ready.
Of Autoworks or of Matt?
Yeah, of
Well,
Matt.
it's the same.
I'm
because he
interested in
is-
Matt.
he
One of
is-
them's easier than the other,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And you kind of alluded to this question already, but I'm interested, and I'm sure some of the viewers are as well.
Listeners.
Listeners,
listeners,
thank
viewers.
you.
Yeah.
I can tell from your accent you're not originally born and raised in California, so I'm just going to try to take a stab at it. Boston, Philly,
Yeah, right in that general area.
Australia. Just kidding, don't punch me.
Wisconsin.
No, you're from New Zealand, which is really cool, and maybe you can just give us a shout about how you got here and how you're doing what you're doing at Autoworks.
Yeah, I from a young age, I've always loved cars. All my uncles have been into cars. They've been into various sorts of racing. One of my uncles races jet boats, sprint boats.
Oh, wow.
So I was always around some sort of car stuff. And my brothers, I got, 3 older brothers?
Mm-hmm.
2 older brothers, a younger brother and a sister. And all of those guys, love cars, motorcycles, whatever as well. So my brother, 2 years older than me, he would always be leading kind of what I would be doing next, because I could kind of look what he was doing and then take it to the next level, or
Top him.
Yeah, we'll try to. It's
That's competitiveness between brothers. That's great.
it's some pretty big boots to fill, might I tell you that. So, but my dad, he was very handy. He's always out in the garage. We had not a lot of money, so everything that we did had to be made from something else, or we get it and kind of fix it. So it wasn't like we're going out buying a brand new BMW and racing that or something like that. Everything was like bottom of the barrel. I've got to fix it. We're working till 2 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of it came from necessity, having to fix these things. I remember being out in the shop with Dad, and we're building this motorcycle seat. So, cutting out the sheet metal with, shears and tacking it all up and forming it all, and that's just the base for the seat. So we'd do the foam, and Mum would do the cover for the top. So kind of we just grew up doing stuff, you know, always around it. Not always the best, that's for sure. I mean, you know, where everyone else is out playing, I'm there working on something, one of the cars or whatever. So,
Right.
Yeah, but you're learning where
Yeah.
people are not.
That's
you
how you
learn
get
by
good.
doing.
yeah, no, I got you there.
You
It's I have no regrets about
That's awesome.
you know how we did it, but
That's cool.
yeah, it certainly was fun. So from there, it kind of progressed into, and I think I started driving when I was 8 years old, and my brother's 10. So the next one, he's 2 years older than me. So we drove this. Dad got this Renault Dolphin from somewhere, 1952 Renault Dolphin. So it kind of looks like your Volkswagen, but you know, kind of more pronounced fenders and things like that. So we pulled apart that engine. I don't know how many times. It could have been 20 times. It could have been 100. I have no clue. I remember one of the things that used to have 3 lug nuts on the wheels, and they were basically studs that would go into the drums. I think halfway through the life of that car, all of them were stripped out.
Oh,
man.
we took the wheels on and off so many times off of that car. Engine in and out. I remember that was the biggest thing that taught us not to strip out stuff, was this old Renault Dolphin. And believe me, everything on that car was stripped by the time that we were done. You know, like all the aluminum housings, we'd have to put helicoils in it, and you know, or kind of try to figure out some way. A paper clip is a really good way to make thread stay. So you'd put a paper clip in it, and then you'd wind your bolt in, and then you'd torque it up to it snapped off, and then back it off quarter of a turn. So that was our torque wrench.
Nice.
No, it's just, you know, all of the stuff that leads us to you know, Autoworks, and that was through our experiences and you know, getting to know myself and what we're capable of, and really doing things incorrectly. And you learn a lot from that, right?
Yeah, you learn more by your failures than you
Yeah.
do by your successes.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you came here?
I was 20.
Oh wow, you're a young man.
So that was like, what, 2 years ago?
Okay,
Right.
Now, totally off topic, but was that a buzzkill to come from New Zealand, where I'm sure you could probably drink, right? You could go into a bar and then come here and you can't because it's 21. Was that different? Was that a?
I was right on the cusp of 2021.
Oh, okay,
When
so
I
it
first
wasn't
came
long
here.
for you.
Yeah, and you know, the drinking age in New Zealand, I think, was about 13 and a half at that stage.
Wow,
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
You know, so I was kind of, you know, over any of sort of opportunity to go out and do that sort of
Right.
thing. So if it was there, great, and if not,
It didn't matter. It
was
didn't
already
phase you one
passed.
bit. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't new to you. They have been doing it for a while, you know.
yeah, unofficially, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
you know. You know, growing up in a small town, there's only a few things to do.
That's right.
You know, and it's just the way it was.
Right on. So you got your interest from cars from your family. What led you to basically restoring Mustangs? I mean, because you guys specialize in Mustang.
Yeah, he does a lot of early
restorations.
Ford stuff, but yeah,
And early-
mostly like Mustangs. That's what a lot of his parts are
Yeah.
that you make for.
What
Yeah.
got you into
this
that?
business, anyway.
Yeah,
He's
right.
got another one or two.
Because you're talking Datsuns and that kind of stuff back from where you're from. I mean, was the Ford thing when you got to the U.S. or?
Yeah, there was really no Mustangs in New Zealand from what I remember. Maybe there was like one or two that you might hear of.
Right.
And I remember one day before I left, some guy had a 67 Fastback that he imported, and that's probably the first time I'd seen a Mustang. So I was probably like 19 years old before I even seen one. And then when I came here, my brother got me hooked up because he moved here as well, and he got me hooked up with one of his friends, got a 67 Mustang Coupe. Very, very cool car, 6-cylinder, right? So that was my first taste of a Mustang, and I realized being in San Diego, there wasn't too many people doing Mustangs.
Yeah.
There was a lot of the guys doing, you know, all the Chevy Camaros and doing the Chevy, you know, trucks, the C10s and things, but as far as the Ford products and Mustangs, there really wasn't, you know, too many people doing it. So I found kind of like a niche, and I really loved the cars, and it just really evolved from there.
Which is strange because they always sold more Mustangs in California than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why they have a California
Yeah.
special. So it's strange that there was nobody really doing them. Of course, I think that's kind of the whole thing with the like small block Ford versus small block Chevy. It was always just easier to do a small block Chevy because it was
Right.
cheaper, a lot more parts, and that kind of thing. So Yeah, it's good. You found a niche market, and you've jumped on it, and
Yeah, a lot of I owe a lot to my friend Bob. No one's really met him. He's a older gentleman now, and throughout the days we hung out. He was a car collector, so I was able to collect cars with him.
oh, that's cool.
And we had a lot of cars, so we got a lot of experience with all the Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles and any sort of Chevys, and a lot of the kind of other models that DeSotos and stuff like that. So across through the years, I've got my hands on a lot of different cars, and it's just given me a little bit more experience as we've gone.
Is he the reason you've got a 442? Because you have a 442, right?
Right. Yeah, I got a 442 and. Some
He's
other
got all
stuff.
kinds of goodies, man.
Yeah, so my friend Bob, I really owe a lot to him right now, and he's unfortunately he's kind of a little sick right now, so we look after him a bit. But he's the reason why I do a lot of the stuff that I do now. He gave me opportunities.
That's cool.
And so kind of like I owe a lot to him.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
Kind of like I owe a lot to my dad and my grandpa. Same
Yeah.
thing. There's always someone that seems to kind of
Yeah.
take you under their wing and help you along the way.
Mhm.
That's what life's all about,
Right.
man.
That's right. So I've seen some of the vehicles that you've done and some of the newer things that you've done, but I know there's one that is a little bit, on the fence for you a little bit, but can you talk to us and elaborate a little bit on a project that you did called Obsidian?
Oh, Obsidian. Yeah. What would you like me to tell you about that car?
Well,
It's very famous. It's
It
been
is.
everywhere. We don't know where it is now, right?
No, we have
still
no
don't
clue
know.
where it is now.
But that thing still is on the internet, and we don't know where it's been for how many years?
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
we have
so-
no
and
clue
it's
where
still-
that car is. Yeah.
But man, that
so-
car was super super cool.
Well, tell me how you came up with the concept, and then maybe what the drivetrain and that kind of stuff was in it, and then basically at the end, what happened to it and why is it missing, I guess.
Right, yeah, so a customer came to us and he said, hey, we'd like you to build a 67 fastback. So I said, all right, no problem. And he brought me a picture at that time of a car that the Ring brothers did. So, Mike and Jim, they built some amazing cars from way back then. And he goes, hey, I want a car that looks like this, but put your own twist on it. So that's kind of how we started. So I did put my own twist on it, but the customer wanted the car so that it would be more than anything else that had been done so far. So we did a lot of body modifications to it, and people give us crap all the time for. Can I say that? Yeah.
Yeah,
crap's
yeah.
I just did. So
Yeah.
So like a big hood scoop that was on the car, but it was to house the intercoolers that were underneath with the superchargers. So they're like, wow, how come the hood scoop's so big? Well, everything on that car had a reason for being there. So we didn't put any Gucci stuff on there if it didn't need it.
So when you opened the hood, you found out why it needed to be there.
So Obsidian, I mean the pictures I've seen, so it was black. Is that the color?
Yeah, that's the Obsidian Rock. In fact, my wife is the creator of that name. I said to her, "Hey, we come up with lots of different names for different, for the car. We knew it was going to be black, so it had to be something that went along with that."
Sure.
So I think she called me and she goes, "Hey, what about Obsidian?" And I knew a little bit about the volcanic rock at that point, and I'm like, you know what, that is awesome. Thank you very much, honey. So she actually came up with the name for the project.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Women are our better halves are way better at that kind of stuff than we are.
I'd be zero without her.
Yeah, me too.
Powertrain?
Yeah, 392 cubic inch stroker motor. The main base of the engine was built by Total Performance in El Cajon. Under our direction. Greg does a great job. He still builds race motors today, so he did an awesome job of that. And then we got hold of Rotrex superchargers, and Rotrex says, yeah, you can't put two of those on that engine.
Yeah.
So that gave us more of a reason to put two of them on the engine. So we did that. Ended up being very successful. The car was very drivable. You could even go along in fifth gear at 800 revs, believe it or not, and put your foot on the gas and it would pull up from there. So it had a nice...
Wow, it didn't bottom out.
Didn't kind of go, the jerk thing and all that. Yeah,
it just went.
It did. So,
wow.
Unfortunately, the way that car went down when we actually got the car finished, it kind of went through a few stages of progression because the owner wanted us to take it to various shows. So I remember Carlisle, Pennsylvania, we took the car out there, and and we had to put it back together real quick for that show, and the car wasn't finished, right? So then it would come back to the shop, and we got to pull it all apart again. So there was a lot of repetition on this project, and we were actually going to produce those cars, so we made molds for the body kits and this sort of thing. So we built one other car. Probably not a lot of people have seen that, but it's looks like Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He likes number 2 better.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, for me it was a little bit more refined in as far as the concept. You took something that you did the first time, and then of course the second time should be better, right?
Yeah, right. Because you learn by doing.
Yeah.
You learn
But the Obsidian is one and only.
Yeah.
For me, I would never create anything like that again. We even did a belly pan on that car, and in fact, that's where Steve come in. Is using Heatshield products. We couldn't have done that car without them, trying to keep all that heat out of the.
Well, he would have found a way, but yeah.
Well,
we assisted.
I don't know. We tried some other stuff before, and honestly, not blowing, any smoke, I have found a company that can provide stuff that makes my dreams reality.
That's great.
So there's a lot of people that helped build that car. And my brother actually came through it before the SEMA debut on that car and helped as well. He came from Vermont, where he was living at that point. He stayed a week out there and helped us. But that thing didn't happen. There was a lot of blood,
a lot of work,
blood and tears. Anyway, so I wouldn't probably repeat anything like that. And from what we were told, it was kind of ahead of its time for what we did to it. And I don't know of. There's a lot of great Mustang builders and builds out there, and and it's kind of funny. You look at those, and then I actually had an opportunity to get the car back, probably a few years ago from the gentleman that owned it at that point. And when you get it in the shop, you're kind of looking back and you're like, wow, we actually built this car. It's just kind of blows me away still, all the work, and no one really knows. And I don't have enough time to explain what we actually did to that car and what's in it. But
it's cool.
There's so many things. It's just mind-boggling. I can't believe we actually did that project. It's crazy.
It's a cool car like that one, and that's one that stands out to me. That Roadster Shop Gen 2 Camaro. That's another one that kind of always like those cars like where you kind of just stop and you look at it and they kind of you're like, oh wow, that's pretty amazing,
Yeah,
that's Obsidian was like that. That was just a cool car. You just like, whoa.
Yeah, so we, I think the first time was at SEMA was 2005 or 6. I can't actually remember now. One of those years, and 24 hours before the show, we had no car. Okay, so we had all these people working on things. We were doing it all. We were working 24 hours a day around the clock. I actually had narcolepsy for about 3 months after I finished that first SEMA deal. So my friend Brian, he was there helping, and he took some time off work. So it was a lot of us got together, and I can think of 20 people off the bat that need a huge kudos, but we just we don't have the time for that here today. But I mean, it was friends and people coming together. It wasn't just me.
That's probably the coolest part about that build, right?
Yeah, and that it really was. But also the worst bit of the build too,
right?
Because it took so much out of us, and it strained, friendships that still hold together. But you just, how do you call on a friend to help you on something of that magnitude?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, love, hate, definitely with that. And now it's missing. You were kind of elaborating on that when we were talking yesterday. Nobody knows where that car is.
Yeah, we have no clue. It hasn't come up on any social media that we've found. So it's gone. It's vanished for right now. We don't know if it went.
It was sold at Barrett Jackson.
Yeah.
Right. The guy that commissioned the car, he finally sold it.
Well, he actually sold it 1 or 2 times before it ended up there. Yeah, and it was Dan, basketball player, who had the car last. So he was 7'3", 7'3".
Wow, and he fit in the car.
Yeah,
wow.
we built the car for someone 7'5". So you could fit 7'5" people in there.
So I definitely wouldn't be able to drive it.
No, you can drive it.
Okay.
It was totally made so you could be, our height, and then you could be basketball fame height.
Well, Chris
if
has
you
got
wanted.
these super cool like race shoes, and they've got these platforms on them that are like 6 inches long.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey, the New Zealand style race shoes, if you can't reach the pedals, just cut some 2x4s and stuck them up under there, right? And
Yeah.
There you go.
bolt them to the bottom
There
of your
you
shoe.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And I mean, the last one, you're working on Redemption, which you can follow online. I don't want to dig too far into that because I know you guys got some stuff up your sleeve. But what other cool things you got in your shop right now? And how can people see it?
He's always got cool stuff. in
Yeah,
his shop.
you can look at us on Instagram. We've got a couple of accounts over there. You can follow us and check it out on Autoworks Resto Mod, and then Mustangs _and _Autoworks.
Okay.
So kind of a mouthful there. That's there, and then our website autoworksparts.com.
I saw the Roush yesterday, the motor that you guys had in there.
Yeah, that's the 5-liter Coyote with a Roush supercharged
Wow.
unit, and we've got that in a 66 fastback that we're doing.
That's
it's
cool.
kind of a cool car.
He's always got the Mustangs, but you know what I love? I love the F100s that he did. Remember that?
Oh,
You and I went
yeah.
down that day, that red and white one.
Yeah.
That was
Was
an
that like a
F250 though,
70,
wasn't it?
71
Yeah,
or
that was a
72?
250.
F250.
but
That
he-
was a beautiful car. We put
Ah,
that on
thank you.
Instagram.
And then
Right.
you had a 53 or something in there not too long ago, or a 55. That
That
one had a Coyote in it too,
Actually,
right?
no, the 55 didn't have a Coyote, but it was just a real clean
That
truck.
was
it
super
needed
cool.
a Coyote though.
The Falcon, the last time I went down there that he
I
had,
love
is some
Falcon.
cool stuff in the interior. Like it just was like, wow, that car's gonna be sick. So
Oh,
yeah, he's got a lot of cool stuff. I mean, he's definitely got Mustangs, but he's got other cool stuff
Yeah,
too.
thank you. Yeah, we enjoy doing what the customers want, and I think the biggest thing that we've learned along the way is to say no.
Yes, I
And
agree.
and you know, now that we're
Oh,
older,
yeah.
saying no is easier,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't get you into so many
Well,
trouble,
that,
right?
that you know what? That's why I'm glad. Like he's guiding me because we're gonna do a plan. Like I said, we've had a really horrible experience before building a company promotional vehicle,
Right.
and he's like, we're not gonna do it that way, Steve.
Yeah, we're
Settle
excited
down.
about this one. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, switch to decaf is what he tells me all the
Yeah.
time. He's like,
Yeah.
slow your roll, dude.
Have
We
a
can't
heart.
do it that way. And it's good. It's good to be told no because I don't want to get. He doesn't want me to waste money, and
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't. That's what's cool. He won't let his customers, like, hey, no, you can't do that. I'm not going to just sit here and tell you yes. I'm not an agent for like a kid coming out of college, and I'll just be your yes man and tell you yes, 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 and
Right.
get into trouble. No, he'll hip check you.
I think what was cool on the phone when you talked yesterday, Steve, I was listening in. You were talking about building a car that you could take apart and basically service
Yes.
rather than just
Right.
Yeah.
doing something that's like out of whack and then the next thing you know something breaks because something always breaks.
Yeah, it might
And
look
you-
perfect, but
Yeah.
you got it's a machine, right?
Yeah,
So
and that's the one. Another thing that we've found throughout the years is guess who's got to work on the car that we built,
Right.
And we
Yeah.
don't go anywhere. We've been in business since 1999, so the chances of seeing that customer again are usually pretty high. You know, even for a second car. So we found that if you don't build it right now, you got to pay for it later, and it's usually us because we've got to go back to the customer and go, yeah, you can't get that part off because it's welded in or it's, you know, a lot of cars are built as hot rods, but you can't build a driver as a hot
Needs
rod.
to be serviceable.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know, imagine taking your new, 2020 Ford truck, and then they say, yeah, you know what, we can't do an oil change because this and this is in the way. And
Yeah.
and honestly, it happens in car build. Something as simple as an oil change, or getting an oil filter off, you can't do it. So we have to look at the whole picture and then kind of design and build the car so that things can become, be
yes, you
taken
get
off.
service because some of these cars you look at them like I mean, we've seen them at
Yeah.
SEMA.
Yeah. How do you
and
get that oil filter off?
Riddler,
Frame rails right
yeah,
away.
or hey, like a light bulb goes out. Well, okay, I've got to disassemble my whole rear end to get into the tail light because
Yeah.
the light bulb went out or whatever.
Right.
You know, you got to be able to work on it unless you're just going to park the car and
Yeah.
look at it and,
And,
let it
and
collect
even then,
dust.
stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
With it, right?
That's
You're
right.
definitely not doing that.
No,
No,
yeah.
he's gonna drive
Well,
it.
I don't have the property or money just to sit and look at something, so I gotta drive it, dude.
And we spent time in the desert yesterday, and we were discussing how
Devastating.
killer it's going to be to get redemption out on those roads.
That was the most uplifting thing about yesterday because Chris and I got to go to a wide open racetrack, and unfortunately, they were Mustangs. None of them ran or worked, and the guy's like, "Yeah, the keys are in it. Just go ahead and, because we're going to help manage the heat
Yeah.
in that thing." And that was the most devastating
Yeah.
things. And I'm being, obviously first world problems here because there's people who have it way worse. But
Yeah.
what a bummer. Wide open racetrack and no car. That
the worst,
F-250
right?
just wouldn't
Yeah.
go around.
Wasn't gonna make it.
You should have
wouldn't be
taken
worth
it anyway.
Oh, my God.
that would have been good.
I needed the brakes to drive home. I would have ruined it. You know
Well,
what I mean?
At the end of the day, I think Redemption's in good hands. And,
Yeah.
We're stoked to have you working on it.
Absolutely.
Thank
Of course.
you. Well, one thing I'm looking forward to, I haven't had a helmet on inside of any sort of race car for a long time. So if Steve actually lets me drive it, I think that'll be that'll be cool.
Plus, we're gonna. He was just telling me Brave Cheese, and he's got like some car events coming up. And Matt was like, "Dude, I'm just gonna throw some suspension. I got something laying around here on one of his 1,000 Mustangs he has at his shop." He's like, "I'm gonna go race a thing down at Qualcomm." So
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So we're gonna join with you a little bit of racing.
yeah. Well, I think the F100, the shop truck, will be done before because it's not gonna be pretty or anything like that,
Right.
and it won't be turboed, so it's gonna be pretty easy. But I'll come down and run that with you when
Yeah.
you run the Mustang.
there you go.
Yeah.
The pressure's on. I got to finish something.
Oh, you're way ahead of me, dude. Don't worry about it. You're way ahead of me, even on that. So.
It's time to answer those burning questions. It's tech time here on Hot Laps.
This one comes from a customer with a Nissan, or I think as you pronounce it, Nissan.
Yeah,
Is it-
Nissan.
Nissan?
Yeah,
No,
Nissan.
no Datsun.
I had a Nissan. I had a few Nissans, in fact. Nissan Skyline.
This one's a 350Z, so fairly new. The customer is looking to shield several areas on the Z, but more importantly, it's the clutch line to the slave cylinder. He's saying that basically the factory rubber line was replaced by a stainless steel line, and that's causing some heat on there. I know where you're going on this. I mean, it's a pretty easy one, but if you could elaborate on the part a little bit more.
Sure. So is what happened when he replaced the rubber line with the stainless steel one. While the stainless steel is neat, it's conducting heat to the inner rubber or silicone or whatever the liner is, and it's cooking it that way. Plus, a lot of it sounds like he's probably had some modifications done, so
Yeah.
some exhaust has probably been moved closer to it and those types of things. So, yeah, you just want to put a sleeve on there to prevent it from melting, so the thing can actuate and move through the cable can actually move through the sleeve that's around it.
And our part you're kicking around?
The quick, cheap, easy. My favorite thing to use is the hot rod sleeve.
Yeah,
but-
hot rod sleeve. That's
yeah,
our go-to.
that's
as well.
awesome. But if it's already assembled, given where it is in the car and there's limited airflow down there, one of the lava tubes would be what I would use on there.
So hot rod sleeve or lava
Yeah.
tube.
If it was
choice.
higher up and better airflow, maybe one of the thermoflect, the reflective sleeves. But if it's close, really close to exhaust, then the lava tube.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
All right. This one right up your alley.
Uh-oh.
Got a 2015 Coyote Gen 2.
Okay.
It says, with limited space, I need to protect the starter against heat radiating from the headers. Would you recommend lava sleeve shield or do sticky shield? And it's a very small. He says it's a smaller starter. I know the answer here, and I think you answered it very well. But they're looking at something that's going to stop radiant heat, but we make a product that you can actually put around the starter. And can you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Just starter heat shield. It's a Velcro on thing. We've been making them since like day one, since '85. Never had one fall off. People like Velcro, will it stay on? Absolutely. You know, this one's evolved a little bit. Yeah, that lava
Hook and loop.
Oh yeah, hook and loop.
Hook and loop. Sorry. Yeah. Excuse me. Hook and loop. Trademark name there with Velcro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would use the lava starter shield. That's just newer technology. There's nothing wrong with the reflective one. It's budget. You know, if you can afford it, spend the money on the lava one.
Yeah, we recommend those in the shop all the time too. They're great.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent.
So I got a second question on this because I actually posted a picture of our lava starter shield on Instagram, and instantly I had about 4 or 5 questions asking about, is that going to retain the heat in the starter to make it fail?
Yeah, because the starter has very little heat going through it. It's just when it engages, it's electronic. So once the motor is engaged through the solenoid, right, that's the only time the electronics are going to generate heat. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting idle.
Yeah.
If it was constantly spinning, yeah, it's like we don't make a wrap for an alternator because you don't want to retain the heat in the alternator.
Right.
You're just trying to, you just want to get it so it survives that initial thing, and away you go.
Right. So just again, we're here to debunk certain myths, and that I would say that definitely is one. So that starter shield, I mean, it's less than $100, and you can really curb some problems with that. I mean, I remember my Suburban, and that wasn't raced out. I used to have to go under there and bang on it with a wrench in order to get it to start every once in a while.
That's why we made them, basically, was for that big body. I think it's 3510. I think that's what the old number was on those.
GM starter.
GM starter, because the headers, anytime, it was just always in a bad spot.
Yeah, because you're not trying to keep the starter motor from radiating heat because it doesn't have any. You're trying to stop the starter motor from getting heat from other things around it. Mm-hmm. So any way you can do that is really good, and it's the way to go.
Cool. Last one, and I think it's a product we don't nearly talk about, but you've used, Matt, on your builds, and the way you fastened is awesome. But Steve, elaborate. Basically, these guys are asking about our Inferno Shields, and is it possible once you buy the Inferno Shield, and I think we do several sizes, like a 6x12, but if you don't need that size, they're asking, can you cut it with like a bandsaw or some tool that you would find around in a machine shop? So answer that, but also tell me like what the material is, and then what's the best way to fasten something that's not adhesive? And
Can I jump in a little bit, Steve?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, we use that product all the time in the shop, and you definitely don't need any sort of major tools, right? Some scissors or a sharp knife will do you. So, yeah, you don't have to have a huge machine shop or anything to cut any of that down.
It's not you just unfold it.
okay,
Yep.
the stainless steel
or
aluminum,
or 1100 aluminum or 321 stainless. And it's got the Inferno core silica insulation in the middle there. Yeah, so one thing you do is when you're resizing it, you trim the insulation to the size you want, but you let the alloy aluminum or stainless about an inch bigger, so you can just fold it back over.
On itself. Yeah. So you just want to make it look like it did.
Yeah.
Really.
and so fastening it. I mean, obviously you could probably hold it together with wire, but somebody who's looking to do a little bit more trick, like putting it on, could you rivet it onto a panel?
Sure, you could rivet it, put a screw through it, anything like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, we've done that a lot in the shop. We'll actually make an aluminum panel that would be the same size as the shield that we're using, and we would attach it to that, and then attach that shield to the car, so you get yourself, a small air gap.
Twin turbo 66.
So
Nice.
something
Like
like
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all the heat shield stuff. Honestly, you get it and you try it. Okay, you just figure it out. I mean, it's there is a science to it, but you have to think about airflow, and is the heat radiant heat and heating up stuff around the thing you're trying to keep cool.
Yep.
And you just try it and see what happens. There's no real wrong way to use a lot of this stuff, unless you use the wrong way.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. All right, new product highlights, and it's getting close to lunchtime, so I think this one's kind of near and dear to everybody's heart that's sitting here. I noticed that we got a ton of barbecues sitting in the warehouse.
Oh yeah. Oh, lunchtime. I see the tie in there. I'm like, where's he going with this? What's going on?
And just elaborate on the barbecues, because I know you love the barbecue, and it's damn
Smoker.
good. Okay.
Yeah, I'm an amateur smoker.
But why are we making shields for barbecues?
The original idea came from when they're grown up now, and they actually listen. Well, sort of listening, so except for the little one, to their dad. And it was like if we had people come over, I'd have the smoker going, and you're worried about your kids touching it, right? Running up and touching it. And then, so I thought I'd make a heat shield for it. The side effect to that is it actually made it work better. So now we're expanding it. Weber Smoky Mountain, because that's what I have. That's the reason why we did it, the 18-inch. The Weber Kettle, because that's like the #1 selling barbecue in the world, I think. So that one just got done.
And then my favorite.
We're going to do the Traeger
So wait,
Tailgater 20.
what does this do for us?
It'll protect you, and you actually use less fuel.
Okay.
So the first time I did it, when I put it on my smoker, like if I didn't have so many sensors and stuff, I would have overcooked the meat.
Oh wow.
Because it just
retains that heat.
Retains so much more heat. I lit like a normal chimney, and I dumped it in there. Well, you light maybe 20% of what you normally do.
Yeah.
And even then, you got to babysit it, because I'll do some stupid 18-hour smokes like on a brisket. But I'm dumb. I do it really low, like 200
Yeah,
degrees.
no, that's awesome.
But it
some
tastes
people go
good.
higher.
Well,
It tastes good, yeah. You know.
I was actually allowed to cook something on Thanksgiving, right? Now, I don't know if you guys remember, it was raining. And
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a barbecue was outside, right, in the rain. So I kind of like moved it as close to the area that I could, whereas I found a little bit of shelter. That barbecue would not stay hot. I should have called Steve.
Yeah.
You
Oh
should've.
man, I was out there adjusting the temperature all the time. Then it would get like hot for a second, then it would drop back down. So man, awesome! I can't
Yeah.
believe you guys have got something like
And
that.
that's a great point. He brings up a great point. So for us, we live where it's, I mean, the weather's probably better than Hawaii. So it rarely, it doesn't
Yeah.
rain, but it did,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Thanksgiving. But
15 days a year.
But for guys in the Midwest and up north where it gets really cold, you can actually extend your barbecue season with this because it traps so much. So you can take, they have those, what is that, the green egg and the Komodo.
green egg.
Those are very expensive barbecues. So if you're a car guy like us and you're kind of operating a budget, get the lower end barbecue. Like I've hot rodded mine. I've had that thing for 10 years now. So I've hot rodded my
Right.
smoker. So this is just another way to hot rod it.
So I mean, safety is a big concern, and I really like the tailgater, your Traeger idea, because again, camping, kids are running around.
Kids are running around, yeah.
And that safety is a big one. I'm not a real big barbecuer. You've gotten me into it a little bit more, but I think at the end of the day, it's a dual purpose deal, and it's really cool. And as I walk through the warehouse, I'm going, man, are we having like barbecue every day, or
No,
what's
yeah.
going on? But
We should.
It's pretty
Well,
pretty
if
awesome.
you're testing it out, man, throw something on the grill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should do. We have to do carne asada again soon.
Yeah. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening. Again, we'd like to thank Matt Couper.
Yes,
Thank
for
you very
coming
much,
up.
guys.
for coming up and for putting up with me in the Mustang.
No,
Yeah,
this-
for all the help.
This is absolutely an amazing opportunity. Thanks, guys, and yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
And Matt, can you just tell the listeners / viewers some information where they can find you,
How to follow you?
how to follow
Yeah,
you?
all right, guys. So you can check us out on Autoworks Resto Mod on Instagram, and then take a look at Mustangs _ Autoworks also on Instagram. Can find us on YouTube at Autoworks Parts. What else is there? Oh, website.
Your website, yeah.
Yeah, autoworksparts.com. And there's probably one more thing. What
Get
is
those
that?
LED kits for your early model Mustang.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
Awesome.
local to
Google
San
interior
Diego,
lights, yeah.
if you're local to San Diego, you're right just down there off the
52.
52.
Yeah, you can stop in and see
Santee.
us. Yeah, I'd like it if you made an appointment. If you're just going to stop by to hang out for a little while, that would be cool. But yeah, come on down, check us out, and especially if you love Fords.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
Matt
Guys.
doesn't just love Fords though. He drives a Dodge, and he just bought his wife a Challenger for Christmas. So he's in high cotton. He bought himself a lot of doghouse time. Get out of jail free cards with that one.
There you go.
Yeah, that was the
That was
KTM debacle, right? Just before before Christmas.
Well,
so.
you got her Challenger, right?
Yeah, a RT 6-speed.
So
my wife drives a 6-speed.
That's it. And I got a video of it. And she was on it, dude. She wasn't messing around.
That's good.
So yeah, thank you for listening and subscribe. Positive feedback. Shoot us questions. Whatever you got to do.
That's what I was going to say. So please check us out on YouTube. Smash that like button. Subscribe, definitally. And
Check
if
us
you haven't-
out too.
Yeah, check Matt out. And if you guys have any other questions to be answered on a future podcast, social@heatshieldproducts.com
Or podcast at
or
Heatshield.
podcast@heatshieldproducts.com. And you can always send us a question from
Yeah,
the website as
we've
well.
got the full line of Heatshield products on our
That's
website
right.
too. So if
That's
you
right.
want to just go and check it
Yeah.
out there, feel free.
Yeah, you know what? Matt will probably run a special on his Instagram, so you always want to follow him. He's always offering some kind of special.
You know
so
what?
that'd be the way to do it.
After we're done with this, I'm going to talk to you about that,
Okay.
and we might just offer our viewers, listeners, a special deal.
Nice.
Just
I
for
like
checking
that.
it
That's
out.
cool. All right. Well, that's it from us.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys take
Thank you.
care.
Like, subscribe, 5-star review, please.
Oh, damn.
From everyone at Heatshield Products, we thank you for listening to Hot Laps. Leave that review, subscribe, tell a friend, and most of all, stay cool. We'll see you next time, right here on Hot Laps.